Imagine you're standing in the middle of a crowded school cafeteria. Everyone is hungry, and there's only one kid, the Fuel King, who sells the really good pizza. Everyone wants that pizza. But there's a catch. The Fuel King doesn't want your lunch money, he doesn't want your rare trading cards, and he definitely doesn't want your dessert. He will only accept blue tickets. And where do you get these blue tickets? You have to get them from the biggest, toughest kid in school, Captain Cash. Now, Captain Cash has a printer in his locker. He can print as many blue tickets as he wants. Because everyone needs the Fuel King's pizza to survive the day, everyone is forced to trade their toys, their snacks, and their actual hard-earned chores money to Captain Cash just to get those tickets. This makes Captain Cash the most powerful person in the school, not because he has the most stuff, but because he controls the paper that buys the stuff everyone needs. This isn't just a playground story. This is exactly how the global economy has worked for the last 50 years. The pizza is oil, the blue tickets are US dollars, and Captain Cash is, of course, the United States. This is the story of the Petrodollar, the greatest financial deal in human history, and why it might be about to fall apart. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to a time when money actually meant something. Before 1971, the US dollar was like a claim check at a coat room. If you had a dollar, you could walk up to the government and say, "I'd like my gold now, please." The dollar was literally as good as gold. But then, the US started spending a lot of money on wars and big social projects. They printed more claim checks than they had coats in the closet. When the rest of the world realized the closet was empty, they panicked. Here is the first twist. In 1971, the US didn't try to find more gold, they simply changed the rules of the game. The leadership told the world that the dollar wasn't backed by gold anymore. Suddenly, the most important currency on Earth was just green paper. It was backed by nothing but a promise. For a moment, it looked like the dollar was headed for the trash can. If the paper isn't backed by gold, why would anyone want it? Inflation skyrocketed. The price of everything went up. The US was losing its grip on the world. They needed a new anchor. They needed something that every single person on the planet required, something even more vital than gold. They needed oil. In 1974, a secret meeting took place. A representative, let's call him the Suit, flew to meet the Fuel King. At the time, the Fuel King was like the kid with the only pizza oven in the cafeteria. He had more oil than anyone else, but he was worried about his neighbors taking it by force. The US made him an offer he couldn't refuse. The deal was simple. Captain Cash would protect the Fuel King's family from all enemies, forever. He would provide the best tanks, the best jets, and the best soldiers. In exchange, the Fuel King agreed to do two things. First, he would sell his oil only in blue tickets, US dollars. If Japan wanted oil, they had to buy dollars first. If France wanted oil, they had to buy dollars first. Second, the Fuel King would take all the extra dollars he made and invest them back into Captain Cash's banks and government debt. This leads to our second twist. The US didn't just find a way to make the dollar valuable again, they turned the entire planet into a captive customer base. By making oil, the lifeblood of modern civilization, tradable only in dollars, they forced every nation on Earth to hoard US currency. Every country suddenly needed a rainy day fund of green paper just to keep their lights on. Think about how brilliant this was. Normally, if a country prints too much money, that money becomes worthless. It's called inflation. But Captain Cash found a cheat code. Because the whole world needed dollars to buy oil, he could print billions of dollars, send them overseas to buy cars, electronics, and oil, and those dollars would stay overseas. It was like he was buying real goods for the price of the paper and ink it took to print the money. This created a massive loop called Petrodollar Recycling. Captain Cash prints money. He uses that money to buy oil. The oil producers take that money and buy U.S. government bonds, which helps Captain Cash fund his own debt. It's a perfect circle where one person gets to spend as much as he wants, while the rest of the world does the hard work of actually producing things. But this system gave Captain Cash a superpower that most people don't talk about. It's not just about the military, it's about the financial on-off switch. Because almost all global trade happens in dollars, Captain Cash controls the plumbing of the world's bank accounts. If a country does something he doesn't like, he can simply unplug them from the dollar system. Here is the third twist. The dollar isn't just a currency, it's a weapon. When Captain Cash sanctions a country, he isn't just saying, "We won't trade with you." He is effectively telling the rest of the world, "If you trade with this person using our tickets, we will take your tickets too." This is why a country can have plenty of gold, plenty of oil, and plenty of factories, but still go broke overnight. For decades, this was the status quo. If you wanted to play the game of global trade, you played by Captain Cash's rules. But being the world's ticket master comes with a hidden cost. It's something economists call the Triffin Dilemma. To keep the world running, the U.S. has to keep printing more and more dollars to make sure there's enough for everyone else to hold. This means Captain Cash is forced to run massive debts. In the beginning, this wasn't a problem, but eventually the debt gets so big that people start to wonder if the blue tickets are actually worth anything at all. If the debt is $34 trillion, can he really keep his promises? Other countries started watching Captain Cash use the dollar as a weapon against his enemies, and they began to get nervous. They thought, what if one day he decides he doesn't like me? What if he turns off my switch? The world started looking for an exit ramp. This brings us to the rise of the rival. Imagine a group of kids in the cafeteria sitting at a different table. They're tired of having to go to Captain Cash every time they want pizza. They decide to start their own club. They'll trade their own snacks using their own tickets. This is the fourth twist. For the first time since 1974, the petrodollar is facing a real rebellion. Countries are starting to buy oil using their own currencies. The fuel king, the very person who started this whole system, recently announced he is open to selling oil in things other than dollars. The captives are starting to pick the locks on their cages. If the world stops needing dollars to buy oil, all those trillions of green papers sitting in foreign banks will have nowhere to go. They would come rushing back to the U.S. like a giant tidal wave. If everyone tries to spend their dollars at the same time, the value of the dollar would plummet. Your morning coffee that cost $5 could suddenly cost $50. The cheat code that allowed Captain Cash to live beyond his means for 50 years would finally expire. But wait, it's not that simple. Switching away from the dollar is like trying to change the operating system on every computer in the world at the same time. It's messy, it's dangerous, and it's incredibly slow. Even if the rival wants to use his own currency, most people still trust the blue ticket more because Captain Cash has the most transparent markets and the strongest military to back them up. You might not like the big kid, but you know his tickets will be accepted everywhere. However, there is a new player on the field that no one saw coming in 1974. Technology. We are moving away from an oil-based world toward an electricity-based world. We are moving away from paper money toward digital assets and smart currencies. The pizza of the future might not be oil. It might be data or computing power or rare earth minerals used for batteries. Here is the fifth and final twist. The petrodollar might not die because of a war or a revolution. It might die because it simply becomes obsolete. If the world doesn't need as much oil, the deal with the fuel king doesn't matter as much. Captain Cash is currently the world's largest producer of oil and gas himself. He doesn't need the fuel king like he used to. The very thing that made him a superpower is now a system he is slowly outgrowing. So, where does that leave us? We are living through the end of an era. For 50 years, the world was built on a foundation of oil for protection and paper for energy. That foundation is cracking. We're seeing a great partition where the world is splitting into different financial zones. In one zone, you'll have the old school dollar system. In another, you'll have a system led by the rival. And in a third, you might have a decentralized system that doesn't belong to any government at all. The transition from one to the other is never peaceful and it's never cheap. The next time you look at a dollar bill, don't just see it a piece of paper with a dead president on it. See it for what it really is, a tiny piece of a global engine that has been humming along since the 1970s. It's a ticket that allows you to tap into the energy of the entire planet. But remember, no system lasts forever. The kids in the cafeteria are getting restless, the pizza is getting more expensive, and the printer is running hotter than ever before. The petrodollar era was the longest period of financial dominance in history. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. The question isn't whether the system will change, it's what will be written on the tickets we use to buy our pizza tomorrow.